clap. Thank you all for coming. We see a lot of familiar faces. I see neighbors. I see parents. I'm going to do a couple of shout-outs. I see Jim Johnson, who's the president of the school board, who's got a spouse that works for our schools, and he's a neighbor. So thank you for being here. But it's really important that you're all here, so that this shows that you're listening, and you're paying attention, you want to know what's going on. And the purpose of tonight's meeting is to give you a little history of how we got to here and what's going on. But I'll have to let you know from people who have more knowledge than I do, if I make a mistake, it's nothing intentional, so just raise your hand and correct me if I say something that's a little out of school. But how we got to this point was I have to do kind of a thank you to Helmut Schmidt, just because I realized as a reporter for the forum, he's got kind of a thankless job of informing people what's going on. And that story kind of let us know what might be happening to not only our school, but schools across Fargo-Moorhead. And with that, we know the school board has a really big task of planning for the future of our schools. And so they've got a lot to do. And that story made us realize that if we want to have a voice in what they're doing, we all have to stand up and let them know we want to have a voice in what they're deciding. And that's kind of how we are here today. We've been working with the Fargo Public School Board with the long-range facility planning task force. They put that together to provide the community a voice to share, so we all can have a voice in how that's going to be looking, what the future for our schools will look like. And they gave us the opportunity to provide 2 people to be on that task force, and we did not take that decision lightly. We knew if we wanted to look through and make plans for our future, who are those people that can be a voice for our community. And they gave us an opportunity to provide someone from our PTA and someone from our neighborhoods. And as somebody who travels for work, I didn't think I would be the best candidate because I would have missed 2 meetings. In fact, I would have missed 3 out of the 4 that they had designated. So we asked John Johnson, who is father to a 4th grader. His background, he can explain himself, but the reason why I personally like John is because for his professional career, he is a facility manager for the USDA on NDSU's campus. So he understands maintaining facilities, which is very important because we're one school, 2 campuses that have a lot of maintenance, and he understands the best way to do that. And then Rebecca Knudsen was the president, or is the president of the Clara Barton Neighborhood Association. So we've got people who are really vested in the community. They both have kids in our school, and it's very important that we had people who understood where we're coming from as parents. A couple of things as far as order of business goes. This is just an informational meeting. Our task force members promise to stay in communication with all of you. They are volunteers. They have not been elected. They were kind enough to volunteer for this very big job of planning for the future for not only our school district or our schools, but the entire district. So if they have a question they can't answer, they're just going to say, I can't answer that because that's not really their job. So we will write that down and try to get it to someone who can answer it. But again, they're volunteers for the task force and not anything else. So another reason why you're here is to find out how you can get active. And so we're going to give you some opportunities we're going to give ideas on what you can do to make sure your voices are heard and make sure we help you get get your ideas out and share that message to not only the school board, but the rest of the community. So any questions for me so far at all? One thing you will see in this is the neighborhood schools work signs. Thank you for those who have picked those up. That came from the Alliance for Neighborhood Schools. When we first saw the story that came out in the forum, a group of people came from the core neighborhoods, and that's from Horace Mann, Roosevelt, Clara Barton, and Hawthorne, got together and said, what are we going to do? Because even though the headlines might not have been correct, they still shocked the heck out of us. So we thought we have to gather and figure out how we can band together and let the school board know that we believe neighborhood schools work. So that alliance is a lot of people from the core neighborhoods. I see a lot of those people from the alliance's audience, and thank you for being here. And they're working collectively to provide the overall message that we all agree that the smaller schools work, that the neighborhood schools work. And so when you go to smallschoolsfargo.com, that's where a lot of the information is shared. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to John Johnson, who is our PTA representative for the task force. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good. Hey, Rebecca and I wanted to get together with you all and just give you some feedback where we're at in this process and receive input back from you. That's our job. I mean, we're here representing you with this task force. For example, I just had a great conversation with a gentleman here who was on, I just found out, in mid-90s, there was a task force, a city planning task force, that was talking about how are we going to build this city to make it the greatest city in the country. And one of the, he said, yeah, about 10, group of table of 10 each, and he said on that table, about every table came up with the same number one priority, neighborhood schools. So now we're going to go back, we're going to request that information, and we're going to try to find out what that is and help interject that into the process. And that's all we can do. I mean, we're here. We're here, the task force, this is for, again, creating ideas and presenting those to the school board. The school board ultimately is the one that's got to make decisions. They're our elected officials. They have the authority to do that. We're there to make those recommendations. As Ellen mentioned, you know, how we got kind of going here, this group, is a while back when there was a notice in the forum. Well, right after that notice, before that, the school board had actually decided to put a task force together. And I was working, you know, in the process of doing that. And I think this that article kind of got us all kind of fired up, right? And it's nothing like a good headline to get us going. And I know myself, we had a PTA meeting, I think that was right a couple days after that. I came here and it came up and I was told that this task force is coming up, and that day, I think it was the 8th or something, was the last day they had taken nominations or whatever. And so I know I went home, I Googled it. Before midnight, I figured I'd beat the clock, and I went ahead and set my name, and I appreciate the opportunity to represent you here. Tonight, we're going to first go through a little bit. I talked a little bit about what's going on in the task force. Rebecca's going to give some information out too on the task force and what the community group is doing. Then we're going to take an opportunity. We're going to go ahead and try to answer questions and take input like we've gotten here from you, please. We'll get a chance to take a little break, stand up, go around, look at some maps and talk to each other with some ideas, and then we'll gather to go through any last minute stuff and plan to have everyone out here by 8:30. If you need to go before, feel free. After 8:30, I think both of us will be here, along with, I'm sure, Ellen. And not only we have a real core group here of individuals that have been working really hard on all of our behalves to help keep our neighborhood the way we want to keep our neighborhood, or make our neighborhood the best. So as far as this task force is concerned, it consists of, they originally had 4 meetings, and so we meet on the Thursday night every other week, and it started, we're getting ready to have our 4th meeting. And what the intent was is to get together as a group, again, as I said, make some recommendations, come up with some recommendations to the school board. At the end of that 4th one, we're going to kind of give those ideas to the school board. They were then give us, kind of look at those, ask us questions about that, and they were going to bring those forward to the community for community input. They have 2 public forums scheduled to talk about some of those ideas and just everything that's going on here. And then the board of education, or the school board again, is going to get together, start working. I think at that time, start kind of formalizing what they've been hearing, and they're going to go back to us and ask us again as a task force in 2 more meetings to look at reviewing public forum input and to review the public comments and then make a final recommendation. The school board would then go from there. That was the original plan. For now, it's somewhat on schedule. So the first meeting, we're scheduled to get together and review the data, get to know each other, I think, a little bit. We had a chance to do that. The second meeting, and then also we're going to discuss enrollment analysis and some information there. I'm not sure, we just got started on that. The second meeting, we were supposed to get together and create concepts. We were unable to really do that at that point in time. We were really getting more data. We were talking about what's important to our communities and putting some ideas, just kind of talking them up with the consultants, I should say, that are running this. And then on the third meeting, we're supposed to refine the concept. And that's really the first time we had a chance to see some. And at the time, we were talking through, and the consultants, we have the group of consultants, they've worked with West Fargo. They work with Bismarck, so they come with some good recommendations. But it seems like we were having a hard time getting our concepts, getting our recommendations in. And at our last meeting, you'll get a chance, we had 3 recommendations given, proposed to us, just ideas. And they did say they were just ideas. And I think that as a group, we were a little concerned on that. We're looking for an opportunity to work in groups and put forth information. I think that word got to the both school board administration. I know we received an email this week from Dr. Schatz, who is the superintendent, and he's going to help facilitate, and we're going to, I think, try to get back on that original schedule a little closer. And we have a new schedule for this week, and that we're going to meet for 2.5 hours instead of an hour and a half. Again, this last meeting, and we are also going to talk about, discuss where we're going from there. And it says next meeting date and time to be determined. I think, as everyone knows, it's a big undertaking to try to look at making recommendations, or at least the data, in such a short amount of time. So this next meeting, we're actually going to have an opportunity. Some other things, for example, they're going to discuss City of Fargo Planning Office, the goal of 2030. Get some other ideas, and we're all community here, obviously, and I know most of you here, everyone, and we're all part of this community. And so it seems I feel a lot better today standing here than I did a week ago, quite honestly. I was a little concerned that, I won't say we were being led down a path, I was just saying it was hard to get organized, that group organized. Would you say that that's true? And so hopefully Thursday night we're meeting again. We're going to again bring some ideas, information there, and we'll try to keep you informed. But that's kind of where we're at and where we're going. And I do know there's still the plan to get public input and everything. I just don't know if that's going to be after this meeting. It appears that might, it may or may not get pushed down a little bit. But I feel good that we're now getting an opportunity to work as a group and create some concepts and ideas out of the group. Were you going to talk on the group composition? Who's there? Yeah, pretty interesting group. I'm impressed with people I get to be with there. Some real people are real concerned, and everybody brings their own concern. The first meeting I sat across from the lady who was representing Kennedy, and Kennedy has some real concerns down there. And it was interesting talking to her. She used to be living in our own community over on 6th Street, I guess, up here, and decided to move down, I guess, into the windy land down there. But they have some real concerns, and it sounds as though for the immediate short term, I shouldn't say some, my understanding of the last school board has dealt with the short term problem, and for Kennedy, or for the growth down south. So now we can continue to focus more on this long-range plan. And again, last thing on the long-range plan, I guess 10 years ago, 12, they had this, and it was kind of the completion of that was building a Davies and such. And so we're hoping that not only we'll get a 10-year plan, but hopefully, the school board then will review that, and I'm sure they do as time goes on in the future, every couple of years or so we'll visit that. So that's kind of where we're at now.
Let's see. Can you hear me? Should I use the mic? I should use the mic? Take it off of here, though. Okay, I have some notes, because I would just want to make sure I don't miss anything. Rebecca Knutson is my name, and I represent the Clara Barton and Hawthorne neighborhoods, and was earlier mentioned that I'm president of the Clara Barton Neighborhood Association. However, we are looking for a new president because I moved 2 blocks north, and I now live in the Hawthorne neighborhood. And this is our advertisement that we need a president for the Clara Barton Neighborhood Association. Maybe we can get one tonight. Any rate, I have lived in the neighborhood at 1350 8th Street for about 16 years with my husband, my son, who's a freshman at Fargo South, and my twin daughters are 3rd graders at Clara Barton. We looked for about 5 years for more space, decided that we were a little cramped in our house, but we were devoted to the small neighborhood schools and wanting to help be a part of keeping our neighborhoods vital, or realizing the vitality of the neighborhoods and helping to keep our schools populated, really, we kind of believe that someone needs to do that because they do add value. So we looked for about 5 years for a house, and we thought, should we add on or should we buy? And after 5 years, we found that one 2 blocks north. But we were committed, and it honestly would have been easier, I think, for us to move farther south into where? The windy, whatever John just referred to it as, but where the wind blows more or something. But again, like I said, we're committed to the neighborhood. And so when I saw the article that has been referenced so frequently in the forum on February 1st, Out with the Old, In with the New, and the pictures were on the front page above the fold of our little schools plus 4 or 6 others, all, by the way, 50 years and older, considered historic by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. I thought, no, this cannot be actually true. This is just crazy that we would even be thinking of such a thing. And so it definitely got me worked up, like lots of people. And realizing that the task force was going to be formed, and just emails and phone calls and conversations started happening with neighbors and just even people that I met on the street, wondering what's going on in our neighborhood schools, in question or in threat. So I definitely decided that I wanted to be on the task force if I could be. I guess I just felt like I had value to add. I think everyone that's on the task force, 25 to 27 members do, whether they're a parent, a grandparent, an educator, an attorney, an engineer, City of Fargo planning staff, city commissioner, park board, or working for the park board. We have some really good talent on that task force. And so I'm happy to represent the neighborhood associations, and it's fun to work with John. And the alliance got formed, as was mentioned shortly thereafter that February 1st article. There's been a group, I would say, of about 30 people that have been going to school board meetings. My message is that we need 50 people at every school board meeting, and that room will be packed. But we have been advocating, I guess, as far as the Alliance for Neighborhood School members, and then those of us serving on the task force feeling like we need more time to talk about this, and now we're getting more time, and we need a potentially a different process to go through this that isn't only consultant-led, but now we're going to be going into this Thursday meeting with Dr. Schatz helping to present, and some other financial information right from the administration, which is going to be great. And we've also talked a little bit more about the information, and we've requested information that we feel like we need. The task force members, just because we know some things, we feel like we have some value to add, and there are certain bits of information that we have been given in terms of financials and more enrollment projections, but realizing that those are very important items, obviously, in deciding what we're going to do for our 10-year plan, but those aren't the only deciding factors. It's what happens and what is the value of a neighborhood school, for example. And our small neighborhood schools part of the equation, just like big new schools are. And what's needed in what areas of towns, and how do you balance that, and how do you get the information that you need to decide, is it more feasible to take down a school and build new, or is it more financially feasible to add on if need be, for example? And making sure that the right folks are involved to conduct feasibility studies to help provide us with that kind of information. So I would say that the task force members and the Alliance for Neighborhood Schools has been pushing for this kind of information, and we've been talking to our school board members, and they've been awesome, because now on Thursday we're going to have this chance to jump in, I think, and have a real good dialogue. I'm looking very much, I'm looking ahead to it, and we're looking for you guys for some information. Let's see here. With Davies School being built, really, from what we've been told, now that was completed, and so the beginning of this long-range plan is starting. And there are many different pieces of information in regard to maps that we have been shown. We are analyzing facility maintenance and deferred maintenance documents and numbers. We are analyzing projected reside and attendance numbers for our elementary schools. I believe it's through 2017 and 2018. And all of these issues are going to come into play in regard to what we should be doing in the 10 years and what do we want Fargo education to look like 10 years down the road, and how do we get there, and does it mean building new schools? Does it mean closing a school and adding on to another? Does it mean redrawing boundary lines and busing kids from one place to another? There are just, I think that the options right now are wide open. We definitely want to get some of your input tonight in regard to the maps that have been put on the wall. And I want to make sure that, I think we both want to make sure that you guys know that the maps on the wall and the options that were presented and the information that we've received, again, thanks to that February 1st article in the forum, are just, those are ideas out there. Those aren't decisions that have been made. The consultants have been leading the process up until now and have been providing us with lots of this information. The maps are not ones that have been issued by Fargo Public Schools administration, from what we know. And so while we want feedback from you guys, it's not this or that is written in stone. And I think what the administration is going to be wanting from us going forward will be us giving ideas. Whether we might think, hey, this is a wild and crazy idea, but just getting every idea out on the table so that we can have some good, real discussions. Because up until this point, we have been more reacting, like, here's a picture, what do you think about it? And so we have been asking, we want to speak, we want to give you our ideas, and so that's why we want you here. Let me see, do you have anything to add right now, John?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, do I need the microphone? Oh, okay. With the test online, I think a lot of you probably had an opportunity already to go on to the Fargo School Board, the Fargo Schools website, and there's the long-range planning task force. So all this information is available. So after a meeting is done, they go and post what the minutes, what was discussed, what the agenda was. So all the information we have is out there. What I'm gleaning from the information, first of all, what's near and dear to us is Claire Barton Hawthorne. We're right at about that capacity. We're right at capacity now. There's always adjustment up and down. And our projection is for the next 10 years to stay right at capacity. Slight, and that's our projection. It was done by a group. I mean, there's always arguments which way or whatever, but overall, I'll just tell you, we're in a good spot here, I'll just tell you how I feel is it's working. And when we do have to face, the school board has, they have about $125 million budget, and about 85% of that's human resource. So they don't have an unlimited budget. They do have to deal with costs. And we know that, but we do have a situation going on, at least in our neighborhood here, that's working. And the other thing that I know I'm pushing anyway is that one size doesn't fit all. The school board has set up guiding standards, which is a great document. They need that. It's very positive in the sense that, hey, we want 20, I think it's 19 to 21 students in the elementary school in a classroom. That's great. Look at our neighbors to the east of us and stuff who are struggling with budgets and stuff. They're not able to maintain that. So we're able to do those great things. But it isn't one shoe fits all. It's a little different. We have facilities here already and such. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up. The options. You're going to tell us, should we run through them real quick? There were 3 options given up, and I'll be honest, I don't give a lot of credence. It wasn't the school board that put those up, it's the consultants, but it did concern a lot of us in the room. And one of them was status quo, meaning don't do anything. And I think basically to bus some individuals from the Bluemont Lake area to schools throughout the district. As a district overall, we have room. If you reshuffle there, if we could just reshuffle everybody and just tell everyone where to live, you know, we could actually get this to work, you know, but that doesn't work so well. But we have capacity in some areas. Not here, but up north there are some that's an issue to be dealt with. It really is, and that's what the task force has to look at. And then another option was, there's two other options. I just really lumped them together, but in both those it has Hawthorne closing and Claire Barton building a new school at the Claire Barton site, 682 student school. That's almost as big as Kennedy. So, you know, quickly brought up, that's not supportable. I mean, how do you get that many? You ever been around Kennedy in the morning? Can you imagine trying to get all those on 6th Street? Anyone live over on 6th Street? Yeah, can you imagine trying to get that through there? So clearly that's, you know, I call them almost throwaway ideas because clearly the infrastructure isn't there to work in that and to look at that. But it's something, you know, there were ideas. I'm not sure where those ideas came up from. But it does get us thinking about those. I mean, thinking about building new, adding on to Claire Barton, you know. And the other term they use is repurposing. And so what they're saying is repurposing Hawthorne or repurposing some of these other schools. And you'll see in there. I'll be honest, in this, as we talk here, I'm focusing in this arena. Obviously, at the task force, we're looking more broadly, but I know it's near and dear to our heart here.
Yeah, one of the things that, you know, if you, for those of us that have lived in these established neighborhoods, no matter if you lived here for a long period of time or you're new to the neighborhood, I think we all can agree there's just something different about it. And when you, say for example, put a 600, if you were going to put a 680 capacity school in this neighborhood, you know, I mean, that's something that we need these things up for discussion because we just need to, obviously. We can't just dismiss ideas, but it takes someone or a group of people to start saying, well, now what would that look like? And would that meet the size and the scale of the neighborhood? And how would that impact traffic? And what would the bus lane be like? And what would the parking lot be like? And how many stories would it be? And would the ice rink still be there? And, you know, would the little curvy path that maybe some of our kids learn to ride their bike on still be there? There's a lot of emotional discussion that goes into it too. And so it's hard, honestly, to separate out, you know, that emotional from, okay, how many kids do we have living here? How much is it going to cost? But no matter what, it's a little different than into a brand new neighborhood, where those neighborhoods are developing maybe around those schools. Like a school could be built out there, and then the housing is going to be built around it, like what was done here. Or housing is built out there, and then the schools, but we have our existing neighborhoods right here in these core neighborhoods. And so some of those plans did call for, one of the plans, most extreme one called for closing, as far as closing, called for closing Hawthorne, Roosevelt, Madison, and McKinley. And then, you know, you'd reshuffle boundary lines. And then another one was closing Hawthorne and Roosevelt and McKinley?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, you just kind of have to think about that and wonder, well, how would that be? In terms of our capacity here at the school and what the projections are, well, Kennedy and Lewis and Clark are overcrowded. Part of that is because if you drive the district and you notice, for example, there's no school at Bluemont Lakes. You just kind of go, wow, you know, where do these kids go to school? Even though they're these big, big schools, Kennedy's already been added onto. And they're over capacity, and they're going to be over capacity until through 2017-18 if something's not done. The district, from what I understand, we understand owns additional land out by where Davies is, so an elementary school could be built out there. There are deferred maintenance issues here in these old schools that need to be dealt with. I was talking to teachers at Hawthorne yesterday, third grade teacher at Claire Barton yesterday, and said, we were slated to have new windows like 3 years ago, you know, where are they? And so these buildings are 80-some years old. I think Roosevelt is 90-some years old, and they're still standing pretty strong even without much being done to them. So we have that as an advantage to us. But I just wanted to let you know, in terms of the information that we've received in terms of capacity, Clara Barton is expected to have some issues, again, like John said, not major, starting next year by only 21 students over capacity. So we need to understand that when we're talking over capacity, what that means. It means 21 students. That's like one class. We don't know if they're kindergartners, first grade, second grade, third grade. Right now, I can't tell you that, but 21 students for Clara Barton.
Third grade.
And then, is it third?
We have 3 kindergarten currently, 4 first, 4 second.
Okay.
Yep, and there'll be more moving up to them.
Was an anomaly at 2.
Okay.
Everyone else following up is going to be added.
Okay.
But school, but there's already planned for that. I mean, I know what there's already planned for
Yes.
Claire Barton and their
What they're going to be doing.
what they're going to be doing and
how
stuff.
they're
So
gonna
they
work
have
with that.
they have the room to.
Yep.
to-
And then just so you have an idea, because when it's talked about, I think you need to know. And if you look at one of the document like we've been looking at that shows from 2013-14 to 2017-18, there's a gold bar that goes across the numbers, and it shows Clara Barton over capacity. As in, what are we going to do? And we just need to know what numbers we're talking about. And so 21 over capacity next year at Clara Barton, and the projected highest at Clara Barton, this would be in 2015-16, about 31. Again, not huge numbers. Kind of makes you think maybe we can figure it out. Maybe we can, figure out a way to deal with it where we have the paired schools going on here. What can we do? I just want you guys to know that so that when you look at these maps, you can kind of think about this. And then Hawthorne's capacity, according to the information we have, is 264. 264. Next year, Hawthorne will be about 42 students under capacity. And at its lowest, again, according to the info we have, in 2014-15, will be about 67 under capacity. And so some of those issues are going on at Roosevelt, Horace Mann, and Madison and McKinley as well, while Kennedy and Lewis and Clark are busting at the seams. And we have, there goes my I Love Clara Barton Hawthorne sticker. We have expanded into the Lewis and Clark neighborhood some. That was done, I don't know if it was just this year or the last couple years. So to help alleviate some of that growth from the south, we've taken some of the Lewis and Clark kids and welcomed them over to the Clara Barton Hawthorne neighborhood. But I wanted to share that with you. These numbers don't include homeschooled or parochial school. And the numbers are based on how many kids would be potentially residing in the area. We can look at it now and say, okay, we have this capacity, and this many kids reside in the area, and this many kids attend the school. But as we project, we don't know how many actually are going to attend. So while we could be 21 over capacity, maybe those kids are all homeschooling. I don't know. we don't know. There is information that obviously we don't know. John?
I think opportunity to take some questions or comments. Again, ideas, please. I mean, we're here. Please.
I was just wondering, based on what you all just said about next year being a little over capacity at Barton, you said they got a solution. Do you know what that solution is?
It's my understanding that they're taking where the teacher's lounge is currently there. That will be a classroom, because I think that was originally a classroom. And they're going to move that, and I thought if
Teacher's lounge will be behind the lunchroom.
where you go up the
So
steps.
it's called the green room. So
Yeah. And that is, I mean, if you ever go on that one, it's
it's a class.
a classroom. I mean, and there's a lot of, there's some simple, actually fairly low cost things that could be done at that school, where the current, for example, I just mean, where the current, this is in the schools, they have to just look at it, and where the offices are now, that could easily be another classroom, and we could, for I think the school just for a fairly low cost, could then look at moving those to the offices to a front entrance, a low-cost structure that would also help take care of the security issue. But just thinking outside the box. I mean, there's some room over there to do some work. So, but again, there are some costs in that building too. I mean, there's the energy costs are a little higher over there too. So there's some things that need to be done, like an energy audit, probably some fairly simple things. But yeah.
Could you clarify the role of the consultant in all this? Do they go away or?
Can you repeat the question?
Did you say what's the role of the consultants? And I think you said when they go away. I think they're here for the long run. We'll see what their role is. I'm really interested to see on Thursday night. It appears that Dr. Schatz and his staff are taking the lead at that time. We were told on an email that we received this week, or last Thursday or last Friday, I think it was, that they would be there to assist in that process. So, and the role, like, I guess, any I don't know, you want to...
Well,
In charge of making recommendations.
That's not my understanding. They're charged to come along and facilitate. In this case, anyway, with the task. I'll be honest. I don't know what their contract with the school district is. I know that in the role that we have, they're there to help facilitate the task force. So I'm sorry. I don't. Anybody know? Anybody read that?
I don't know if anyone else went to the Rose Up meeting, but we had some feedback from the school board members that were there that said they kind of indicated that they're emotional on our schools. They like the way things are, and they said they need to bring the consultants to provide the objective data, just to here are the numbers, here's how it works out mathematically, and get that as part of the equation, and then we can add back in the emotion and the achievement and all that stuff that needs to come from the people in the school district as well.
Good point. Thank you.
well, and the consultants had been brought in to provide recommendations in terms of analysis of the facilities, putting together. From what I understand, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. But cost analysis, going out. We have until down to 2023 for all of the schools, not only even the elementary schools, but we have projected from 2014 to 2023 for every school, site and grounds, building exterior, building interior, mechanical, electrical, life safety, ADA, projected costs. And that information was put together by one of the consultants, ICS.
Yeah, that was a separate. Yeah,
that was a separate
company
one, and there were really two consultants involved, ICS and RSP. And RSP was the one that was helping to facilitate the process, facilitate our task force meetings.
Thank you. Oh,
Anyone else?
Jim.
Let's see here. Under the two of the A and B proposed scenarios, Hawthorne would be closed and capacity of Clara Barton would be 682 students. One, what would become of the Hawthorne neighborhood with school closing, I'm saying, and two, how would the increase in traffic for Clara Barton be addressed? So I don't know if we can answer those questions, but do you,
it
John?
did come up. I mean, that has come up. That's come up at the time. I can just tell you that's come up. First of all, a lot of concern is about what would happen when they say repurpose, because everyone has what does repurpose mean? And everyone knows that can mean everything from taking the building down and putting condos in to the school opening a STEM program here. I mean, it could be arranged anywhere in there. I mean, we don't know, and so clearly, if something like that happened, there is concern in the task force of what repurpose means, and to all the schools on there. So
what we were told at the last meeting, because we said a task force member raised that question. What do you mean? What is the definition of repurpose? To you, and it was Fargo School keeps the building, and that was basically the short end of that question.
the other one, as far as like the traffic over on 6th Street and stuff, that's been brought up at the school board meeting. Because it just, it just doesn't make sense. So that has been brought up to the task force. I'll be honest, kind of looking around at that time, engaging the input, it seemed like most people realized that didn't seem tenable. But again, but it has been brought up there. So again, these are, and that was one of the first things that came up. And not only about the traffic, I mean, afterwards our task force here looked, there's a plan to put a bus, what do you call it,
There's a bus lane.
Bus lane over at the school this summer, right? I mean,
The city is doing work between 13th Avenue and 15th Avenue, I
All right. Thanks. I have one here. Have maintenance costs been shorted in the past? Or have the maintenance costs been shorted in the past few years for older schools and older neighborhood schools? If you look at the data, you're going to see we have some unbelievably great bargains going on in Fargo right now. Some of our schools we have of what the original costs and what we have invested in them. Some of those items, some of those things, why we don't have windows yet at Claire Barton is, things happen in other places and repairs need to happen. One thing that I would like to propose, and it's come up before, is that an organization this large, with a $125 million budget, has to have a repair and maintenance budget. And I think if you look out there, what data is out there for larger groups, I know in the facility that I work at, we commit 4% of our overall budget to R&M. So for that'd be about $5 million for the school district. I think if you look at what we've spent in the past years, that's gone up and down. I mean, there has been some good repair and maintenance in. There's been windows put in schools. There's been heating and air conditioning put in. But I would like to, I'm trying to push that is a mandated amount. Because at the end of any year, if any one of us were asked, hey, next year we can repair the parking lot out here, or we have to let 10 teachers go because our budget got tightened, every one of us would keep our 10 teachers. We know that. I mean, that's a hard decision, but quite honestly, to be a viable school district 10 years from now, we got to fix that parking lot. We got to fix those windows. And so if that's mandated, and this is John's opinion, this isn't anything, but that's something I want to push in there, because if we start doing those reinvestment in these schools here, it's amazing. I think this is an opportunity for us, quite honestly. This is an opportunity so that we can get our schools back to the standards that they should be at, and so we can get air conditioning. Technology has come so far in heating and cooling. It's not just to replace, heating, air handlers and heating units and steam converters and such. Technology has come so we can actually air condition old buildings like this at a decent cost we weren't able to do 5 years ago, quite honestly. And hey, you live in old houses. Some of you are using that same technology in your houses right now. If you have steam in your house, you're probably air conditioning with that technology. But that's fairly new in the world. So anyway, not to be a soap opera, but great. Yes, I think that I won't say we are where we are. So we can say, in my opinion, we can say that we're shorted in the past. But I believe if we go forward with a strong, a good, reliable repair and maintenance budget, along with a good O&M operation and maintenance budget, that our schools will pick up.
So I think you're kind of starting to answer the question that I was having, but are you hearing any part of the conversation that suggests that these small schools are just inefficient I'm guessing that that's part of the conversation, but how much or what are you hearing about that? Are we going to have to be pushing back against the sense that a big school would just be a lot more cost effective?
Yes. Because, that's the perception also. Perception is reality, even though it's not. We just sold our house about a month ago. Well, we're closing here, but we sold it, and one of the people looking at it said, "How much does it cost to heat that thing?" They always want to know what the heating bill is, and it wasn't that bad actually, and we still have mostly old windows in there, and they were surprised. But it's a good old stucco building, and there are other things that make it efficient too. But that is, I would say, a perception, and that's something that we're going to need to deal with. And it's been mentioned by some task force members, and it's just educating us, educating everyone, and really there might be some costs that if we decide, it is just, we need to have air conditioning in Claire Barton. There's just, our kids are going to suffer. Their learning is suffering because they don't have air conditioning, for example. If that's true, and it's impacting their learning, well, maybe we need to fix that, and maybe we do need to make that investment in that strong building that's been there for almost 90 years. But I think at a certain point, it's going to, my own opinion, again, is that it's going to need to get past, to a certain point, only financial. It's what's good for the kids, what's good for our community, what kind of choices do we want to offer the people that live in Fargo. Fargo's been booming, and it's going to continue to boom. And we only have so much space. It's this long, narrow city. And so if we just keep going south, I mean, I don't know. We're going to end up in South Dakota. And so at some point, we're going to, we need to come back here, and we need to keep reinvesting here. And as Fargo grows and becomes more and more diverse, that means even more and more that one size does not fit all. It means one size doesn't fit all in terms of schools and, I believe, in terms of neighborhoods. And so if we have neighborhoods that are different, we're going to have schools that are different, we're going to have stores that are different, we're going to have everything, it's going to be kind of designed to fit the neighborhoods. And so at some point it's even more about like what kind of city do we want, and how does education fit into that in our buildings, and does that make sense?
We have a follow-up back here, or
No, I just have
comment? Please.
Well, my only comment, my name is Nick Chase, and I don't represent anybody or anything. But I have gone to all of the task force meetings, and I don't have the deep baritone voice. Do you mind if I don't have John's voice? I've been to all the meetings, and I thank John and Rebecca for participating, and clearly you see they're people of great talents, and there's a lot of people on that task force with talents, but I will tell you, those talents are being squandered on that task force. There's only a farce that's going on as far as public input, and this is only my opinion, but I've been to all 3 of the meetings so far. There hasn't been a single idea. There have been a lot of good ideas that people have tried to force in to the conversation from this task force, and those conversations are never picked up, never developed. They go on to a board or this little catchy thing they call the parking lot. You put it on a little Post-it note, and they put it up on the board. Now, when I was in high school, a lot of really interesting things happened in the parking lot, but this parking lot, that's where all ideas go to die. Nothing interesting happens in this parking lot. This isn't the parking lot you want to go to or watch what happens in this parking lot. So there hasn't been one idea, and there have been a lot of good ideas thrown out this meeting that have been developed at all. So what has happened? Well, a lot of you had read the forum article that caused a lot of hoopla, where all 4 proposals had this school closing. And a lot of these school board members told me, hey, there's no proposals out there. This forum article is just, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's all made up. And and to a large extent, I believe them, and I feel that they're honorable people and who have told me those things. But nobody told the consultants those things, because at every one of these task force meetings, they're hammering these small schools. They do a team building exercise with them. Then they said, what's wrong with the paired schools? They don't comply with the guiding standards. They're very expensive, and they time after time they're hammering the small schools. And I would say that these proposals that they threw out at the very last meeting are right out of that forum article that was supposedly made up or whatever. Well, if it's made up, I think that's a forum writer who should pick all of our lottery numbers, because he ended up being very clairvoyant about where this process was going. Now, there was also some maps that were handed out to the task force members and said, here, look at them and talk them over for 10 minutes, and then tell us what you think. Now, I don't know how many decisions you guys have made that have been fairly important in your lives, but ask yourselves, do you spend 10 minutes thinking about it and talking about it, and then give your snap judgment on those things? That is what's been passing so far. Now, maybe this last meeting is going to be different, and they've certainly changed the format of it. And I'm really hoping that it's a substance change, not just a form change. Because I'll tell you, and I know that there's a lot of excitement that the business manager is going to lay out a lot of the financial alternatives for all these different plans. Well, I'm really glad that in the 4th meeting of 4, we're finally talking about what the finances are as compared to all of the options. I think it's about time, and I think that if there is a lot of information provided at that meeting, I sure hope that they don't expect that task force to actually give something that can be characterized as public feedback. Now, I know I've talked a long time. If you could just give me one more minute. People, whenever you talk about keeping these schools open, they'll always accuse you of bringing emotion into it. So let's talk facts for a second. What are the reasons? I mean, when I look at this school, I think the parents like it, the teachers like it, our numbers are good. So what's the problem? Well, the two things you do here are that it doesn't comply with the guiding standards. Well, you look at those guiding standards. The first guiding standard they'll talk about is that they say they want a K-5, 6, 7, 8, and then a 9 through 12 configuration for their schools. I will tell you, if you look at the website, you look at everything that led up to that, you talk about the people that were involved in the development of those things, that was all about keeping the two high schools the same size, the 9 through 12. It was all about keeping the 6th graders in with the junior high and not with the elementary schools. It was not about somebody in 2nd grade saying, gee, my 2nd grader doesn't know, can't learn anything because they don't know what the 5th graders are doing. The K through 5 configuration in every school, first of all, if you want to take it as a constitutional amendment or a commandment even, I would tell you that I believe with a paired school system, we still comply with that, even if you think that should be the overriding factor. The other thing you'll hear is that ideally they want to have 5 or 6 sections, but then it says at least 2. Well, we have at least 2, so we don't. There's nothing about these guiding standards we violate. And then the other big one is expenses. Somehow, this school over the next 10 years is supposed to cost them $1.6 million, even though there's never been $1.6 million since the beginning of this school put into this place. Now, is that possible? That $1.6 million? Let's just say that it is, and let's just say that it's going to be another $2.5 million. Over the next 10 years or for Claire Barton. Let's just pretend that those are real numbers. Well, those are to make this school completely up to date. It's to make that school completely up to date. How do you save money on 1.6 and 2.5 by building an $8 or $10 million new school? I don't see those numbers. And I don't see any of the so-called facts that seem to override all of our emotion of our school. So I really apologize for how much time I've taken out from you.
And that's a perfect segue to our next question, because it really ties into the schools and what we're hearing about quality of education. So we had a question, as for Hawthorne and Claire Barton, could moving the 3rd grade back to Hawthorne possibly be an option? We haven't really looked, that hasn't really come up as a question, as a conversation piece, but I think it's fairly balanced. I do want to take this opportunity to say that we've had some very, Eileen, Ellen, I think you started it, or the survey for the staff and teachers here at school. And we put one on and asked them to take that, and we received very positive feedback. We had a couple concerns, about 2 campuses and stuff, but overall, very, very, very strong support for these schools. And I think I'm going to let Ellen, you mind speaking on that for a second?
Just a quick background. We did an online survey of every teacher. We offered it to every teacher in our school in Claire Barton Hawthorne, and we had about 78% respond, which is the most that's ever been responded to a survey that was sent. We asked them 10 different questions based on the language that we got from the consultants, making sure that we weren't trying to lead anybody, but just giving them an opportunity to say, all right, we've heard from the consultants, there's inefficiencies. Here's the inefficiencies they listed. How that have they interfered with both your job and the students' learning? The only time we ever heard major inefficiencies in teaching or learning was because of the maintenance that was not kept up. And had we done that, that's the only thing that they could point to. And so that's what we heard clearly from the teachers saying, when I say major, I mean we're hot. We're starting school earlier, and now our kids are sleepy and hot because we don't have air conditioning, and we can't give them the environment they need that's been equal across the board in the new facilities. It's simple things that we can fix. There's a question that the consultant said, what are we going to do about these stairs that the kids have to go in, because that might be something that's marked for our younger students. And one of the teachers said, I happen to know that most of my kids live in a 2-story house. They want to go in there and get rid of the stairs. So it's just, things that they're trying to lead into us that the teachers have overwhelmingly said, we like the setup because this is a place of learning for somebody in the same environment. K-2 is geared toward them. And they have, when they have them, a different school where it's now geared for a little bit older as far as progression goes. Are there inefficiencies? Absolutely. They have to change schools to go to different meetings. Is it a hardship? Well, they will admit it's kind of a hassle some days when it's winter, but I have to drive for meetings too, but overwhelmingly, they support this system because it's best for the kids.
Yeah, and I was just going to share a couple of. Okay. One question.
I just had a question on what data analysis is being done to say what is the educational efficiency of a smaller school versus a larger school.
Yeah.
I think we're concerned about, I know smaller schools can do better data analysis on their students, they can do more, their teams can collaborate and meet together when they have smaller settings, they can have better, all that. So I'm more concerned about the educational.
And that's what our teachers have said. That they know that when they're looking for moving their kid on to the next grade, they can say, you know what, my son's name is Angus, this is where he should go. And they can collaborate because they know what's best for him. So the teachers agree with that, but we don't.
That's some of the information that we've been saying we need to help us make decisions.
I teach at a larger school, and we've been looking at other schools in Fargo about how we can better our data analysis, and we say, well, these smaller schools are doing so much better of a job than we're doing. We can't do what they're doing because we're too big, but we can try. And so that's why I want to see that kind of comparison to say, well, we can't do as much as the smaller schools can do because we're big.
And I think the important part, and that is just, when you look at statistics, that's so they are looking at how much it costs to replace windows and air conditioners and stuff like that. And that's exactly the information we're trying to push. And we do have, and thank you for that, because we will continue to push that. But I'll be honest, there's been talk, I don't want to be too negative, but there's been talk about, hey, the most important piece of that is education. And I think that's very important. Because the lady I told you about earlier that is representing Kennedy, that we talked about, they would like to downgrade. She was upset that they added on down there, and they did, because it just made a large school even larger and such. And so I think that's important. I see some hope. I just after the last school board meeting, and if you read the paper after that about I see hopefully movement in the direction of neighborhood schools, because the school board is looking at taking the Bluemont Lakes students and putting them at the Eagle Center for the next couple of years. If you read it, I don't remember or memorize it, but it's to take those first and second graders and put them at the Eagle Center, but from the Bluemont Lake area. And they also authorized to do soil analysis of some ground. I believe Park Ford owns it. Don't quote me on that, but I believe Park. And that they're doing some soil analysis up there on that to see if it's even possible to put a school. I think that's great. I think that's great, because that's not building a mega school down by Davies on the land that the school board owns, that nobody lives there. That's feeding into the community schools. That community school will be Bluemont Lake community, and there's a huge amount of students over there if you look at population. So I think the school board, honestly, I think there's some great. I think they have our best. We just need to keep bringing up all these things to them and ideas. So,
when you're asking for data of student growth, if you just look for scores, you're comparing apples and oranges because each neighborhood is different. What you need to specifically ask for is percentage of students making targeted growth. Every student has, based on where they come in the fall to where they're supposed to be, how many of those students are meeting their targeted growth? And that's a way to look at it. There's different populations. Some, depending on socioeconomic status, you can't compare each school. But if you specifically ask the district, what percentage in the small schools are making targeted growth versus what percentage in the large districts are making targeted growth, they may be able to give you that. They're going to have to dig for that information, but that would be a way to show small schools are making gains.
we have a camera where we have our community. I won't say activists. Oh yeah. It's doing exactly from day one. Charter, and has been bringing some great information not only to us but to this committee and getting it to papers.
That's a question that they can come back with and say, have they made, specific schools making targeted growth? You don't want to just look at test scores because, again, you're comparing different things. But are they making the gains they're supposed to make based on their potential?
Can you write that down so I have it?
I've got it right
That is what post-it notes are for.
Oh, great. Yeah, a question or
I
comment?
just had a comment. I come from a consultant background, but more pertaining to the business restaurant aspects. And our part was filling in the gaps. So as a parent, I'm a new person in the school district, but also military race and specializing in communication, but also with my current studies. But taking all these questions as a consultant, that was what was really important. Was taking all these questions, these concerns, and the things that make the school work right now is what the consultants need to hear and more. I mean, and to push the issue and constantly continue to push that issue, I guess, as a task force towards the consultants. If, it's not being brought up by the board, but towards the consultants even more so that they can take those concerns and those comments and see how they work with the data that is reported. I mean, because that's what, as a consultant, we work with. We're working at profitability and our functions, but they're also probably needing some more information on the people that are in the system and seeing how it works and how it can get better. I mean, just on the comments.
And thank you. And one thing is, as a community, I mean, the task force is making a recommendation, but also, if those of you who've been at school board meetings, I've had an opportunity to go to a few here, and they listen. I mean, you sign up and you get an opportunity, and I think it's up to 3 minutes. And I've watched since I've been there that not everyone had a chance to speak in the school board. Everybody there voted to let some extra time so people could speak. They do it for, I think, the first half hour of the school board. But I encourage you, also letters to the editor. We've had some great letters and stuff. And I encourage you, for those of you who have the gift of pen, just please do that. So, we had one minute.
Yeah, I just like to add that at the Roosevelt meeting, we had straight from the horse about John Strand saying that this kind of activism is important. I mean, he kind of said that outright. Some of the other school board members said, just your support, you being here means a lot. And you don't necessarily have to speak up. I mean, we know what you're thinking.
It does.
So if we can get 50 people at every school board meeting, that's great. We get crowds like this, that's great. For Roosevelt, it was great for tons of people. And that makes a difference, just being here.
Yeah, and we need to keep doing this. It could be that our schools stay open, which would be awesome, right? But I think we need to keep paving the way. We need to keep saying what we want, what we believe is going to be right for Fargo, and we need you guys to show up. We had 1,100 flyers distributed for this meeting tonight. We had emails that went out through PTA. We have someone that helps us with media, so we had a release in the form. There's a Small Schools Fargo website and Facebook. So please go to those websites, grab the information that's on the table out there if you haven't already. And I just wanted to reiterate, letters to the editor. We've had quite a consistent stream of them that would support small neighborhood schools ever since that February 1st article came out. Just kind of a nice steady stream. If you have any questions, if you want to write a letter and you have questions, you don't know what kind of a topic to write on, you don't know what angle to write, you're looking for more information, just the phone numbers, John's and my phone number and Ellen's phone number is on the information on the table out there, and grab that. Actually, just short letters are great too. I mean, you can even write one that says, I love small neighborhood schools, and that'll probably get published. So, attending school board meetings, again, we need 50 people at every school board meeting. Even if this isn't on the agenda, be at the school board meeting with an I Love Clara Barton Hawthorne sticker, with a neighborhood schools work sticker, with a little sign or something. And we have to keep in mind, while we're working for what we want and what we believe is right, we're working with our school board. Would be, I would say, our goal is working with versus against, even though we might have different ideas. Which for?
They meet.
It's next week, Tuesday.
Every 2 weeks.
At 5:30.
And you can attend the task force meeting. We would encourage all of you to show up at the task force meeting on Thursday, in which task force is supposed to be in charge of it, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
The next task force meeting is this Thursday. It's at Agassiz. It starts at 6 o'clock, scheduled to go to about 8:30.
But hey, what's nice about it for all you can, we're in the front part, it's in the cafeteria, so the back is open. You literally, if you can't make right at 6, you can get there at 6:30. You can walk in, you can sit down and listen a little bit, you don't interrupt anything. As a matter of fact, the people that some of them I'm watching here that have been there, they'll get up and stretch their legs and walk around and then go back and have conversations. So you can come in for all of it, you can come in for part of it. If I could real quick, I want to read the schedule. I know this seems a little slow, but I just want to real quick the schedule for Thursday night. Dr. Schatz is going to review the process, future direction, review overall process, future directions, and meetings by the superintendent. Then we're going to get a financial review now, Nick had said, finally, from Fargo Business Manager. Then we're going to do a heat map and capacity issues, look at those really for the first time in depth. That's Dr. Schatz again. Then we have the city planning office come in and talk to Go 2030. That's something that we've been pushing because what's the integration with the city. Then a tabletop activity. Instruct each table will work on a series of questions and come in up with comments and recommendations regarding the development of a long-range facility plan for Fargo Public Schools. Then we're going to have a small break and then discussions and group work, and then a gallery walk and discussion, summary, and next steps. And that's right there. So to me it says this isn't our final meeting. That kind of indicates that. But again, I feel more positive about that. But please come. And by being there shows, because I'll tell you, there's been a great show. The school board members have been coming. There's been, I think, at least three or four at every one of the meetings.
Yeah, and send us ideas and questions ahead of time. I wanted to say too, if the schedule that shows public forum meeting 1 and 2 on May 15th and 16th, that schedule will likely be updated. Because, again, we're going into our 4th meeting and we're doing a little revamping, getting more information, as John just outlined. So if you go to the Fargo Public Schools website and you find this schedule and you're wondering, why am I not hearing more about these meetings on the 15th and the 16th? It's likely just because they're going to be shuffled around a little bit. I'm assuming that we're still going to be having them. I wanted to mention a couple other things that we need help from you. We need people to take these signs door to door. We need these neighborhood schools work signs in every yard. We can order more. They've been going like crazy. Each neighborhood association was given 50 signs to start with. We ordered 500. And so the signs are going. A small contribution covers costs of $5 if you're able to. If you're not a big deal. You still have a sign in your yard. But if you want to go around and you want to knock on doors and ask people if they'd like to take a sign, do that. We're going to need help with people dropping flyers down the road again. Let us know if you're going to do that, if you'll help. On this sign-up sheet, just check the box that says that you want to help. We need volunteers to do data entry because we're actually getting to a point where it's a good problem to have that we have too many people interested. And this is a full-time volunteer job. I just wanted you to know that the people on the task force and the people that have been meeting on the Alliance for Neighborhood Schools, it's just like a job. I mean, it's 5 to 6 meetings. I'm happy to do it. We're all happy to do it. But it's 5 to 6 meetings a week for, 3 hours at a time, conversations on the phone for anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to really get the information that you want. And so, but we've been growing, especially with the Roosevelt Horace Mann meeting a couple weeks ago, a couple hundred people there. More and more people are starting to realize, hey, there's something to take on here. And so we need help. We need people to help us just simply enter data into an Excel spreadsheet so that we can get you into an email list and communicate with you. We need folks to help us in the IT end, technology. So potentially on our Facebook page at some point, on the website, we might need a little bit of help there. And we would love to have some folks that are experts in statistics and finance to help us analyze these numbers. Really what we want to do is build kind of a small team. we're not able to hire consultants. And so we need to form our own group, and we're looking for your expertise in that. Is there anything else that, I know we built a little list a few days ago about resources that we need. Is there anything that I missed?
Okay, any more questions or anyone have some more comments? We've had some great. Anything else anyone has questions? Yes, sir.
It was mentioned earlier that the millions of dollars it might take to upgrade the two schools would be small by comparison to what new school is running. It should also be mentioned that use of the old schools are sustainable. That's a buzzword today. Everybody's interested in sustainability. There is no more sustainable act than using the existing facility.
Thank you. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yes.
Just a question. I come from a door knocking tradition, so I would like to ask, when are we door knocking, and can we maybe get a sign up front that people say, yes, I want to door knock and help get out the information? I think having a date that people can commit to is going to get us real committed folks that will get out and do door knocking and get the information out to our neighbors.
Absolutely. We're writing it down on the wall. We have, this is not the parking lot that goes away into oblivion, by the way. I did want to mention the reason we did hand out Post-it notes was if you had something, if you had a question and you didn't want to say it, write it down and put it on the wall. And before you leave tonight, we would love it if you would take a look at the big grayscale maps. Those are the maps that show the district boundaries and where the current school boundaries are. And then if you want to take a look at the options that were presented to us at that last task force meeting, you may. And just compare and see. Now, what you need to realize for the ones where it says close a school, a building is still on there. So, like, even if Hawthorne were closed, the number for the building is still there. So it took me a while because I thought, oh, well, that looks pretty good. There's still, there are two buildings there. But in reality, it's a school that's not functioning as a school, possibly. So if you want to take a look at that before you leave, and if you want to write any comments or questions or suggestions down for us, that would be awesome, because we can take them to the task force meeting. We can take them, we can bring them up at board meetings, at school board meetings. We can email board members, or we're happy to do that and try to get information back through to you. The other thing is we have this email list that's been going out through Constant Contact. Now, that was put together based on people that attended the Hawthorne meeting last time, and then we also had a Clara Barton meeting, a PTA meeting, a few weeks ago. Likely not everyone is getting the message. If we weren't able to read the handwriting, we might have made an error. Sometimes it goes into junk mail, so I just want to make sure that you know that we have a process together in regard to trying to get this communication out via email, and if you're not getting it, if you found out about this meeting because it was on the flyer, but you had previously given us your email address, let us know so that we can hopefully work that out. And then check your junk mail and email.
Yeah, I'll talk for a minute.
You're going to talk.
Yeah. Here. So what I'm wanting to kind of talk about a little bit is, number one, like ways that you can contact all of us. Through the website, we've got smallschoolsfargo.com. I do need
go
to
into the mic.
All right. Here, I thought I had a booming voice. I guess not. Is it not on?
It's on.
It is. Is it working? Yeah. I can't even hear it. Horrible. So smallschoolsfargo.com. It's kind of a work in progress, but there'll be ways for you to kind of comment and connect with us if you have questions. Also, smallschoolsfargo@gmail.com is an email address you can contact us through. Does anybody else have any other questions? I'm involved a lot with the data aspect of it. I got really frustrated with the consultants mostly saying that there's this emotional aspect to what we're all promoting, that we need to be less emotional about it and more rooted in fact. And so that became kind of my thing to go after the data. because I know that it's out there. We've had a couple of teachers speak to that. Everybody knows that small schools just function better. They're more community-oriented. You get kids in smaller groups. You just get people in general in smaller groups, and things facilitate much more easily. So it's just a natural idea that we're going to have better results from smaller schools. So it's not difficult to get that out there, but to get it into the hands of people who have the credibility, like consultants that are pulling in a six-figure contract to be able to tell various officials what they think. They have that credibility. They paid for it. We unfortunately don't have that credibility. We have to work extra hard to earn it. So we are working on the factual angle, the data angle. We know that the information is there. We just have to unearth it and get it into the hands of the right people. And I just want to say one quick thing, too, about the school board. Initially, there was some animosity there. It seemed like they were this group of people that were just out to take our schools away from us. And what we found through the process is that they're very earnest in trying to make the process work in a way where they were kind of taking their hands off the wheel and allowing the process to kind of work itself out. They were trying very hard not to be heavy-handed with it. And unfortunately, I think they got the wrong consultant, and the process got away from them a little bit. What we're finding now, having engaged with them, spoken with them individually, all board members as well as Dr. Schatz, is that they're all very much on our page. They've done a tremendous job in changing the way that this task force is going to work for the next meeting. Again, we'll trust but verify. We'll see what happens in this fourth meeting, but I'm feeling much, much better having spoken with a number of the board members as well as Dr. Schatz, and getting a much better feeling that we are now, as a group, actually participating and making public comments. And these are the ideas that we're going to be able to take forward and help change Fargo Public Schools, or at least keep Fargo Public Schools as good as they are.
Facebook.
Facebook as well, yes. We have a Facebook page.
And the PTA.
They're working on the PTA
PTA
has a
also.
Facebook page, and so does the Alliance for Neighborhood Schools.
Yep.
So if you're on Facebook, friend us and you'll get information that way.
Yep, we're also on Twitter. Yep.
I just have a quick question. The consultants seem to be collecting data that's only about financial issues. I mean, are they collecting data about educational outcomes or learning outcomes or parental involvement in schools, or is it really only about the cost?
So far, that's all.
Okay.
And that's what we're asking for, that whole other half.
Because it seems like they should do this work, not.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, they've been paid a lot of money, and they should. When you're doing this kind of analysis, it seems to me that a cost-benefit analysis is what you need to do, not just a cost analysis. And I'm no business person, I'm a hippie, but that would be my concern. So.
I'm a great person to answer that question. I'll do it quickly.
Yes.
I'm not on the task force. I have no compunction whatsoever about saying that these consultants are not interested in educational outcomes. They're interested in financial outcomes. They're interested in, making their process as easy as possible. They're repeating a process. That's what, I won't speak, anybody I'm an IT consultant, I don't repeat processes. When I go to my clients, I offer them the solution that they're asking for. I work with them until they're satisfied with what I'm offering. These consultants are not working with us. They are taking a template that they've applied across the country. You can see on their website the various different clients that they've worked with. You can see the way that these projects turned out. Almost without fail, these folks are going out, they're doing demographic studies, they're ultimately recommending building bigger schools. They're following the last 20 to 25 years of, I won't say, it's not something that's been researched, it's been shown to be good for kids or anything. It's been shown to be good for expanding communities. It's been shown to allow cities to sprawl. It's been shown to allow developers to reach into new areas without having to pay for massive amounts of infrastructure. They let the taxpayers do that. These consultants are facilitating school districts going into outlying areas of cities and making the taxpayers fund infrastructure. And then there goes the city. So that's what these consultants are doing. We're not fortunately, we've got a school board that's very much interested in listening to what we have to say, and we're going to have the opportunity to get that information into their hands regardless of what the consultants have a contract to do. So, anybody else? Yeah.
Just when you found out about the consultants in other cities, what type of cities do they consult for?
I believe these guys come from Minneapolis.
One. Kansas City.
They're all over.
Kansas.
Kansas, yeah.
The recommendations that they made for the other cities,
Well, I mean, right now locally they've done. They did West Fargo and Bismarck, two very similar situations, though different needs. Obviously, West Fargo has a different issue than Fargo has, and Bismarck's probably more similar to Fargo's issues that they're having. But they did there, and you talked. I haven't talked to West Fargo. I've talked to. We've got input from friends of Bismarck, and mixed, not necessarily the best report card back, but that's again personal opinion from them. So.
Can I just add one more point? It's not even correct to say that the consultants just look at the business side of this money. They cherry pick whenever you look at their numbers, they cherry pick two calculations, the deferred maintenance and the energy costs. And I would just say, when I think about my 1997 Honda Accord that's been paid for 10 years, and if you buy a 2014 Honda Accord, you probably will have fewer expected maintenance over the next 5 years, and you probably will do a little bit better on your gas mileage. But I will say to you that you're not saving money by buying a 2014 Honda Accord, and the calculations are the same. I mean, just you have to equip a new building, you have to insure a new building, but you will always see. So it's not correct to say that they just look at the money. They cherry pick the two calculations that make an older school lose.
There's also some realities that are going to come in here. All these to build these new schools and stuff. That there is a huge cost to that, and they're. And again, that deferred maintenance, you paying that deferred maintenance, a lot of people on the task force will say, and not only say, but can prove if you write it out that it is cost effective to do those. And again, but it isn't like it all has to be done tonight. I mean, there's priorities, but again, back and think we have a mandated repair and maintenance budget within the school district. Those things will start to get taken care of, and our schools. We'll have air conditioning in our schools. It should have had them. Should have had at least 5 years ago. Yes, sir.
You said that if they close houses, Fargo Public Schools keeps the school, and they use it for what?
It's repurposed. That discussion, they haven't had that. It can be anything from selling it. There's a neighbor over here might be interested. I don't know. They can sell it, or they can use it for school business. Like I said, it could be repurposed, or it could be sold. It could be used for.
It's not good enough to teach kids.
Again, there has repurposing. Repurposing has a lot of. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, the fact that, or the answer to Fargo Public Schools keeping the building, that was the answer that day at that time. Things can change. Money needs, if an addition is going to be put on to, say, Clara Barton or something, or a bigger school is going to be built somewhere, money needs to come from somewhere. So, and the reality is that really, if this building were not owned by Fargo Public Schools anymore, it obviously could be used for many different things, or it could be scraped and something else could be built here. The land code doesn't provide for any real specific guidelines in terms of what could be here. a parking, and not to scare people, but we need to think about that kind of stuff, because when people say, well, would that really be that bad to have a brand new school at Clara Barton? Well, I mean, the answer could be no, but what else? Does that mean that this is a parking lot? Does that mean that this is a tall, townhome thing? Does that mean it's condos? Does that mean, anything? And if that's what they are, what do they look like? And there aren't any guidelines. It can look like pretty much anything you want. There are some historic overlays in the Hawthorne neighborhood, but there are very little restrictions in regard to the size and the scale of what potentially a new building could be. That could happen all over the place. That could happen in any of these old neighborhoods. That could happen at Clara Barton, an addition onto Clara Barton. If, for example, if that were to happen, how would the neighborhood be involved to push to make sure, for example, if we decide that it needs to meet the scale and the size of the neighborhood and the look? So what kind of pushback are we going to use there? So really the reality is the answer is we don't know. It's the answer that was given to us, but we don't know.
If I could, we have 3 last quick questions. I told you we'd get out of here at 8:30, and I really we need to wrap it up here, but a real question or comment?
Yeah, I think I would like to have the task force kind of bring to the table, in my opinion, I'm wondering why I don't feel we have a big problem at Clara Barton Hawthorne. I think the biggest problem in the school board is Kennedy's overpopulation, and Bluemont Lakes doesn't have a neighborhood school. So I'm wondering why we're wanting to close schools, build new schools, when one school would be really sufficient for the Bluemont Lakes to have something similar that we have, then Kennedy would have something similar that we have, and utilize what the buildings and the schools that work, such as ours, and not spend so much, maybe spend money on one new school, and kind of, for all intents and purposes, leave us alone, but really focus on that as far as, instead of focusing on, fighting for closing, trying not to close ours, but let's help this other community have kind of something that we have and work on that around the board in the community and focus on that problem, which is a way bigger problem that I feel we don't have a problem here. So I think the task force could maybe bring that more to the table, that, hey, let's look at the major problem that we have. Let's have a solution to that, and let's kind of, these are going well.
And our job as a task force is to look at the whole city of Fargo.
Yeah.
We're here talking Clara Barton and Hawthorne here, and in every neighborhood. Well, I shouldn't say every neighborhood. There are some neighborhoods that don't have neighborhood associations and don't have as active a PTAs as we have. So we're really lucky that we have engaged citizens in these neighborhoods. I feel for the ones that don't, because sometimes you need to be the squeaky wheel. Even if, in fact, I think we always need to be. Even if our schools aren't in question, we still need to be doing this.
I agree.
Yep.
I'm not saying we don't need to do this, but I'm saying as far as the consultants and the school board members, let's focus on that big problem that they have, that they need to do something permanently to fix that.
And I think that's going to happen in our discussions, don't you, John?
Yeah. And quickly, I did make a minute, we're going to wrap up because I know people have to get going. Overall, from the task force meeting, I'll tell you that those who are outspoken, there's probably 7, 8 of us, and that it seems that group is going towards, I hate to use the word status quo with the addition of the school down south, but we're not saying that we've been asked to keep our mind open. We're keeping our mind open, but it seems as though that's where at least this outspoken group is heading towards.
Yeah, and even when there has been the discussion of adding an elementary school out by Davies, we, as a task force, I can't say if it's the majority of task force members, but the discussion has also been at those meetings, but we still have a problem with the Bluemont Lakes area. What are we going to do? So even if we add a school down south, farther in the new south, there's still going to be a problem in that area. So that's true, definitely.
Is that a question right here, real quick, and then we're gonna.
I just wanted to thank Becca, John, Ellen, Eric, Nick, for all your hard work. I know that you guys have a lot
greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, we're going to wrap it up. Ellen, do you have a few comments? Or
apparently there's a rally before the school board meeting.
Okay.
One announcement, Merle Pickthorn mentioned that there will be a rally of anybody that wants to turn out right before the board meeting. I understand it's next Tuesday. They meet at 5:30, so the rally will be about 5 o'clock down at where the board meets downtown. Anybody that can come. Continue the momentum for what we're trying to do here.
Okay, great. Thank you guys for coming. And again, if you want to take a look at these maps and
We'll be
write some
around here
comments
if you
down,
want to take a
go
look,
for
ask
it.
any other questions. We'll be around. Thanks.
We didn't determine that it was. No. Did we at that meeting? No. There's some misinterpretation. You know.
I appreciate that.
Well, we all need to have that role. That conversation. The plan and like we've talked about the purpose. What's the rallying? What's the point? What's the I want to answer on that.
Whenever you need the girls to land at our house.
Awesome. Well, the rally.
That's really good. Because somebody just can't make a decision about.
Because that was something that was like randomly discussed at a meeting. So there's no plan.
Yeah, no, I mean,
like this. Well, I mean, just because I mean the alliance hasn't even formally announced. Oh, Eric said that. But yeah, that I just wouldn't want people to. I wouldn't want to be.
Everybody's got to go right now. There's a gas smell on the highway, in the hallway, and the fire department's on the way.
Jeez. But I mean, I would say do everyone a favor by not putting that in there because it's not. There's nothing been decided. It was ran like a quick. Well, that'd be a way to clear people out. Oh, I'm like, hey, on that note, you want to go those maps down? I don't think we really got many questions, but is this actually, Nick, is this true or is this just a way to get us cleared out quickly? I'm like, gosh, you know.
We're going outside, we'll pick it up later.
Oh, you know what?
I'll wait.
Some of this is yours and some of this is...
Yeah.
Are we going outside and we're going to come in later?
While you're looking stuff up with the city, look for the minutes from the Public Facilities Review Committee.
Yeah?
That was a committee that was put together by Mayor Furness at that time.
Okay,
and it comprised of school board, park board, city officials. What is it called again? Public Facilities Review Committee. We set up a matrix on citing a new grade school. Public Facilities Review Committee. But the interesting thing about it
Email
was
addresses.
Blue Mountain
Here,
Lakes is a problem
write
with
your
that
name
part.
and stuff down, even though I know.
This was a committee to share
I don't know. I mean, do we really need to leave?
96-ish?